The 2022 Spanish Grand Prix was one of the most exciting in memory. The Catalan circuit is notorious for hosting boring Grand Prix due to the lack of overtaking. But if F1 needed proof that the new regulations were working as intended, then this was it. Of course, when you have a competitive race with lots of pit stops and teammates who are very closely matched, there are always going to be some tough decisions to make. Sergio Perez may have finished second in Spain, but the Mexican driver was furious with his Red Bull team, and today we're going to tell you why. To explain why Sergio was so angry with his team, you need to know the details of the race and the team's strategy. Spain is currently experiencing a record-breaking heatwave, with temperatures in parts of the country reaching over 40 degrees Celsius. The hot air flowing north from the African desert came just in time for the drivers to make it to the grid. As the lights went out on Sunday, track temperatures were comfortably into the high 30s. Because of the high temperatures, teams were able to run with the softest compound available for the weekend, and most teams went for a 3-stop strategy, or in Alex Albon's case, a 4-stop plan. Because of the high temperatures and large number of pit stops, teams were able to adjust their strategy during the race regularly. Decisions on when to stop were being made on where other cars were on the track and what the immediate battle looked like. For the Red Bull team, this meant that Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen ended up on different tyres for parts of the race. Both started on the soft compound before changing to the medium at the first stop. Perez was able to run his softs for 4 laps more than Max thanks to his incredible skills in tyre preservation. This meant that when he came up close behind Max Verstappen on lap 22, he was on tyres that were 4 laps younger than Max's. Max was on a set of mediums that were 13 laps old at the time. Max had been going hard on his tyres while fighting with George Russell for second place. The battle began in earnest on lap 22. Max struggled to pass the Mercedes driver for 5 laps. His faulty DRS flap that would just open and shut at the start of the straights didn't help him. But full credit has to go to George Russell, who fought brilliantly with the world champion, and the battle between the two of them was one of the highlights of the race. While the battle was going on, Perez sat just over a second behind the two, watching the whole thing unravel. On lap 26, he was quickly closing the gap to Verstappen, who was unable to find a way around Russell. They'd pitted at the same time earlier in the race, and both of them were wearing down their tyres quickly. It was clear that Max didn't have what it took to get past Russell at that point, and Sergio Perez could see that as well. Perez was running behind Verstappen and George Russell early in the race. Verstappen then spun and rejoined the track behind his teammate. After Perez made several attempts to pass Russell, his race engineer Hugh Bird told him, "Okay Checo, let Max have a shot. Let him through before 4. Perez asked for one more lap, but was told, "Let's give him a shot now, we'll pay it back later." As Perez came up to the 1-second deficit that activates DRS, he asked for Max to move out of the way, rightfully thinking that this was when he was going to get paid back for letting Max pass earlier. He was told by the team to let Max race though and not get involved. So he sat a second back from his teammate, making sure to keep his tyres fresh and wait for his chance. Max came into the pits on lap 29, having destroyed his tyres trying to get past George Russell. This left his teammate Checo 1.5 seconds behind Russell on much fresher tyres. It only took Checo 2 laps to close the distance and pass Russell. He waited patiently behind Max for 5 laps before he was given his shot. Checo might have been frustrated at that point, but he was only going to get far angrier later in the race. Thank you to Surfshark VPN for making this video possible. What does a Surfshark VPN actually do? Surfshark keeps you safe and private by covering up everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Let's say you're a George Russell fan, but you don't want anyone to know. It's okay, we understand. Well, with Surfshark, you can keep that secret safe, as all your information is encrypted when you use it. Surfshark will even encrypt your download history so you can send and receive files securely. This means that even if we wanted to, we wouldn't be able to see the Charles Leclerc fanfiction you just downloaded. Surfshark also lets you virtually travel the world with the tap of a finger. Let's say you haven't been able to catch the most recent series of Drive to Survive because it isn't available in your country, and you're definitely missing out if you haven't seen it, by the way. Then you can use Surfshark so that your computer looks like you're in another country, and you can binge watch Drive to Survive like the rest of us. No matter where you are in the world, Surfshark can keep your browser safe. With over 3,200 servers in 65 countries, you can always find a server to meet your needs. Click the link in the description of this video and use code F1REVERSE to get 83% off your purchase and 3 extra months for free. Thanks again to Shark VPN for sponsoring this video. On lap 49, Red Bull resorted to team orders again and asked Sergio Perez, running in first at the time, to move out of the way and let Max through. It was 5 laps after Max's third pit stop, and at that time he had far younger tyres than Perez, who would pit just 4 laps later for a set of softs that he secured fastest lap on. The message over the radio to him was, "You're on a different strategy to Max. If he is quicker, we let him through." To which he replied, "That is very unfair, but okay." At the end of the race, Checo sounded less than impressed on team radio. The audio is just uncomfortable to listen to. You can hear the disappointment and anger in his voice, and you can tell from how Hugh Bird gives him his congratulations that he's expecting something from Sergio. If team radio wasn't public, you can guarantee that there would have been some very strong words said by the Mexican driver. He's a veteran of the sport though, and knows better than to bring arguments into the press. All he said in the end was, "I'm happy for the team, but we need to speak later." Christian Horner came on the team radio to try and help lift the spirit, but all Checo had to say was, "Yep, no worries, we will speak later, mate." It was hard on the Mexican driver, who would never have expected team orders to come in this early in the season. He's clever enough to know he's a second driver at Red Bull, but for Red Bull to ask him to move out of the way this early in the season will have been painful. Horner did his best after the race to try and make nothing of the incident, claiming they were on different strategies and racing different races. This may have been true for much of the first half of the race. Both drivers are thought to have started on a 2-stop plan until Max destroyed his tyres, failing to pass George Russell, meaning he had to be moved onto a 3-stop plan. Red Bull could have pulled the trigger on the strategy switch a couple of laps earlier and given Sergio Perez the place back that he had given to Max earlier in the race. Sergio then could have passed George Russell and started extending a lead on his 2-stop strategy. Max would have come back at him later in the race, and it would have been much later than 49, the point when Red Bull used team orders to let Max pass the second time. If that had happened, it would have been much harder to justify team orders for Red Bull, as there may have only been a few laps till the end of the race at that point. Speaking post-race, Perez said, "I think what was clear was that the 3-stop was a better race time and the various strategies. So I think if I went in that direction, I would have won the race." And it worked out for Max. I think that was something we discussed. It was good because we didn't know at the time which strategy was going to be the best one. But speaking about the team orders after the first position swap, Perez added, "I only felt that in the first stint, when I gave the position to Max, that I was told I was going to get it back. When I was on the 2-stop, I felt I could have gone through Max and George a bit earlier to try and make the strategy work, but probably it wouldn't have been enough. Obviously, it's impossible to know if the strategy would have worked. There are far too many variables to consider. But if Max was allowed past Checo because they were running a different race, why wasn't Checo allowed past Max for the same reason?" When asked about the result, he said, "It still is a great team result. The season is still very young, and I think the momentum in the team is great," he added. "So we just have to discuss a few things internally. There's nothing that I'm concerned of. If anything, I can say the atmosphere in the team, the momentum we're carrying, it is tremendous, like no other team, so I'm pleased with that. We'll never know what could have happened. The number of variables in an F1 race are far too great to allow us to say for sure if Checo could have won if he was allowed to race his race." Red Bull team principal Christian Horner said it made no sense to allow the 2 drivers to fight at the end of the race. Verstappen very quickly closed on Checo, and at that stage there was a tyre delta of close to 2 seconds a lap, he said. So with high water temperatures, oil temperatures, DRS that was intermittently working, it didn't make any sense to let them fight because it was an unfair fight anyway. And as it turned out, we had to pit Checo anyway for the end of the race. So both drivers worked together as a team, and to get the maximum points today was hugely important on a day that unfortunately Ferrari had an issue. Horner believes Perez will understand the team's tactics once he has the full picture of how the race unfolded. I spoke with him when he got out of the car. The problem for any driver, if they don't have the clear overview of the strategy or a race plot in front of them, it's always going to be a motive to give up the lead. He played very much the team game. I think he understood clearly it wasn't a like-for-like fight because the pace delta between the strategies was so great. From a team point of view, I think for me, it just doesn't make any sense, which was why we didn't let the drivers get in a fight today. It's a lot of PR-friendly words from Horner that Checo won't fall for. Yes, at the end of the race, letting Max through did make sense, but that isn't Sergio's issue. He's upset about what happened earlier in the race. Having a first and second driver isn't an issue for Perez, but for his race to be affected so early on by team orders, and for him to not get the courtesy given to him in the same situation really riled the veteran driver. He knows he has his seat at Red Bull on the caveat of letting Max through when it matters, but this move by Red Bull may have gone too far. What are your thoughts on Red Bull's use of team orders? Fair enough or out of order? Let us know in the comment section down below. Until we see you next time, drive safe and bye bye.